A demonic possession is when an evil entity controls the body of another being. It's believed to be a common way for hellish creatures to enter our world. Cases of demonic possession go back for centuries and continue to this day. The thought that a maleficent being could take over your body is, of course, a terrifying notion. Hollywood has capitalized on this belief with films like The Exorcist and other horror films in the genre. However, did you know that most of these movies were inspired by real-life events? Unlike those films, these stories are not believed to be fiction. Hi, I'm Mr. Mysterious, and this is 5 cases of real-life demonic possession. Now, I must warn you, and no, this is not an attempt to be overly dramatic. The first couple of times I attempted to record this script, some very strange and unusual things happened.
A demonic possession is when an evil entity controls the body of another being.
So please, proceed with caution. Clara Germana Sele. Clara was a 16-year-old Catholic student living in Umzito, South Africa. She was known as an ordinary girl who had one dark secret. She had made a pact with the devil. Clara was dumped by her parents at the orphanage when she was only 4 years old. In 1906, she confessed to her school's father her dark, terrible secret. After her confession, the sisters began to notice Clara acting strangely. She would growl like a rabid beast at anyone that came near. She would often talk to herself and tear at her clothes like a wild beast. One of the nuns even wrote, "No animal had ever made such sounds, neither the lions of East Africa nor the angry bulls." At times, it sounded like a veritable herd of wild beasts, orchestrated by Satan, that had formed a hellish choir. Clara was reported to have said, "Sister, please call Father Erasmus. I must confess and tell everything. But quick, quick, or Satan will kill me. He has me in his power. Nothing blessed is with me." She began to despise blessed objects and would act out when crosses were near. Her increasingly violent and erratic behavior soon terrified the nuns, as she would lash out on them. The nuns reported that Clara soon developed inhuman strength and would often hurl them about the rooms. She also spoke in several languages, including German, French, and Polish, despite never being exposed to them. Whenever an attempt was made to restrain her, she would use her extraordinary strength to defend herself. It was reported that she could defy gravity by levitating in the air and rotating. Only holy water being splashed on her would snap her out of her demonic trance. Her confessor and another priest named Reverend Mansueti finally performed an exorcism on her. While being read her rites, she snatched the Holy Bible from her priest's hand and attacked him. She attempted to choke him with his stole by wrapping it around his neck. The deliverance lasted for 2 days until she suddenly levitated before a large crowd. This terrifying sight signaled the exit of the entity. The priest then declared that she was finally rid of the demon and now free from his control. It's unknown what became of the girl after she was healed. We may never know if the demon came back, or if she lived a normal and happy life. Roland Doe. One of the most terrifying movies of all time, The Exorcist, was based on this real-life famous possession. This horrific case inspired author William Peter Blatty to write his famous 1971 novel, which was subsequently adapted into the movie of the same name. The story was based on a 13-year-old boy from Cottage City, Maryland in 1949. The boy's true identity is shrouded in mystery and is only referred to as Roland Doe. The young child was very close to his aunt and after she passed away, he became distressed with her loss. Missing his aunt terribly, he repeatedly tried to contact her spirit through a Ouija board. However, while he was doing this, strange sounds started to be heard in the boy's family home. His parents feared that something was seriously wrong with their son and promptly took him to some Catholic priests. The two priests were allegedly named Father Raymond J. Bishop and Father William J. It didn't take them long to diagnose him as being possessed by the devil. They believed that the best course of action was an exorcism. The first exorcism did not go as planned, as Roland Doe tore free of his restraints and attacked one of the priests. Over the course of several weeks, the priest performed 30 exorcisms on the boy. His behavior only worsened during the course of his treatment. He was said to have often spoken in Latin with a coarse, sinister voice. Violent lacerations would suddenly appear on his body from out of nowhere. Scratches resembling words were even etched on his body, such as hell. A diary was kept by the bishops to document the strange events. This diary included accounts of the exorcism rituals. It documented that the mattress would shake and the boy would vibrate and struggle, even having to be held down by 3 men. On the last exorcism, when they almost gave up hope that he could be saved, the boy went into violent convulsions. He cried out, "I command you to leave this body now." Then he collapsed on the bed and gasped, "He's gone." After his exorcism rites, the priest believed they expelled the violent demon from his body. He was later described as a fine young man, according to the diary. Roland then grew up to live an ordinary life, and it's believed he was even married and had children. Michael Taylor. Michael and Christine Taylor lived a quiet life in the peaceful English town of Ossett. They were deeply religious and attended their local church regularly. They had 5 children together and lived a conventional life. However, their ordinary lives changed forever in 1974. That year, Christine found out her husband was cheating on her with a member of their own church. Michael was insulted by the allegation and shouted violently at his wife. His erratic behavior only deteriorated, and he would often be heard cursing at Christine. Their local priest noticed his sudden change in behavior and approached him about performing an exorcism. They started in the early afternoon and carried out the exorcism until 6 a.m. the next day. It continued all night long, exhausting the priests. The priest reported that when the exorcism began, Michael would howl, bite, and scratch until he was tied to the church floor. They concluded that they had expelled more than 40 demons from him. However, they warned that a few remained. They freed him and allowed him to return home. After Michael walked back through his door, he attacked his wife with his bare hands. He ripped her tongue out and gouged out her eyes. He then proceeded to tear her face off before going on to strangle his mother's poodle. He tore the dog's limbs from its sockets and ripped its tongue and eyes out. He was later found yelling, "It is the blood of Satan," while blood-stained and naked in the street. At his trial for the murder of his wife, the prosecution barrister told the jury that they were about to witness evidence that, quote,
"will make it difficult to believe you are not back in the Middle Ages."
During the trial, Michael stated that he had no memory of the killing and blamed it on evil forces. He also claimed that his wife had been possessed by demons. He was acquitted on the grounds of insanity and spent 4 years receiving medical treatment. He attempted suicide on 4 occasions and pleaded guilty to sexual assault in 2005. Once again, he began to exhibit odd behavior and was ordered to receive psychiatric treatment. Anna Eckland. This is considered by many to be the most famous exorcism story in the United States, and one of the first known recorded in its history. Anna Eckland was born in 1882 and was raised in a strict Catholic household. However, her father and aunt routinely practiced witchcraft. It was reported that they often teased the young girl and taunted her. Her father even went so far as to curse his daughter, and after the curse was placed, she began to show signs of possession. She rejected anything religious and avoided any holy artifact. The once devout Catholic now refused to enter her church and presented feelings of anger towards the priesthood. In 1912, in a desperate attempt to rid herself of her burden, she underwent an exorcism. However, it turned out to be unsuccessful and only made her condition worse. It was now said that she was possessed by a number of different entities, each one growing stronger by the day. Over 20 years later, she again sought intervention from the church. Father Reisinger hid Anna away in a convent, away from suspicious eyes. It was here that she was confined for 23 days. Her condition quickly deteriorated as she would often hiss and curse in foreign languages. She would reject food that the nuns had blessed by throwing it on the floor. She was also said to have levitated in the air and had to be tied down to an iron bed. At least 3 exorcism rituals were performed on her, and during these rituals, she would vomit profusely and her limbs swelled to enormous sizes. The evil entities were finally dispelled, and she was declared free of any demonic possessions. Not much else is known about her after the successful exorcism, except that she mysteriously disappeared. The Perron family. This real-life case inspired the hit horror film, The Conjuring. Roger and Carolyn Perron and their 5 children were an ordinary American family. In 1970, the Perron family moved into a quaint farmhouse in Harrisville, Rhode Island. Their new family home was called the Old Arnold Estate. When purchasing their new home, the previous tenants advised only one thing: leave the lights on at night. Only later did they realize what the warning meant. As soon as they moved into their new home, they began to experience strange happenings. The dark forces appeared to be partially attracted to Carolyn. She once awoke from her sleep to find a ghostly spirit at the foot of her bed. She claimed it was an old woman in a gray dress with her head dangling off to one side. The nearly decapitated woman warned her to get out. "Get out! I'll drive you out with dream and gloom." Things only went from bad to worse as objects levitated in the air and sinister noises whispered in the night. Doors would slam shut, while others would remain frozen open. The children would also be prodded, teased, and tormented. A vile male spirit even molested the 5 young girls. It was then when they found out that the house kept a terrible secret. 8 generations had lived and died on the property. The house was a witness to a number of suicides and violent crimes. This included a 93-year-old woman named Mrs. John Arnold, who hung herself from the rafters in the barn. There were several other suicides and a rape and murder of an 11-year-old girl. Other deaths included drowning, freezing, and poisoning. There was one particular spirit that was hell-bent on tormenting poor Carolyn. The ghost would physically abuse her by pushing, pinching, and even stabbing her with a needle. But the family remained defiant and refused to be forced from their home. This only angered the spirit, which then decided to possess her. They believed that Carolyn's ghostly parasite was a wicked lady named Mrs. Bathsheba. She was a Satanist and was described as a vile and hideous creature. It was reported that she murdered all 4 of her children in the house. Desperate for help, they contacted well-known paranormal investigators, Ed and Lorraine Warren. This famous married couple were involved with the Amityville Horror and the Annabelle doll hauntings. Using their expert knowledge of demonic possession, the Warrens could feel the evil within Carolyn. They immediately set to work, trying to cleanse the house of all evil forces. But unlike the film this story was based on, the paranormal investigators did not rid the house of spirits. Instead of solving their problems, they only made them worse. The Warrens' interference only aggravated the spirits and caused them to lash out more violently. For 10 agonizing years, the Perrons were not even able to escape from their constant torment due to monetary issues. The problems only spiraled further out of control as they became prisoners in their own home. Fortunately, they were finally able to flee in 1980. But the dark forces were not going to give up on the family so willingly. The entities hunted them down in Georgia where they'd escaped. Despite being followed by these evil forces, they were far less powerful than when they were in their old property. Do you believe that these were real cases of demonic possession, or simply unfortunate people suffering with mental issues such as schizophrenia? Feel free to add any more information of other demonic possessions. If you found these mysterious, then please share and like this video. Also, be sure to subscribe because you don't want to miss what's coming next. As always, thank you for watching.